three centers of intelligence. You have people that go head first, which is logic, and their go-to emotion is going to be fear. You have people who are body first, which is intuition. Their emotion is going to be anger. You have people who are connection based. Their go-to emotion is going to be shame. So if I can spend time with a person and be able to go, oh, I see where you're coming from. Then from there, it gives me insight into, okay, what other center, what do we need to leverage in order to change the experience that you're having there? And
Hi, my name is Celesta Camps.
And I'm Jane Parmel.
Welcome to the right room. And in this episode, we have something very interesting for you. Let me ask you, Jane, because you've been in several different positions and jobs, what do you think is the death knell to any office?
Uh, the culture. I know it's very cliche to say the I in team. There's no I in team, but if there's not a team culture, if you're not all working towards the same goal, it becomes very hard to stay.
Exactly.
But I also think
Communication.
I'm sorry, I think it's also hard to get to that point. Like, what would you say? How would you get to that point where you can even talk about culture?
Right. Well, it becomes communication, effective communication. And how does that work in a place of business when you are having people of different cultures, different ideologies, different perspectives, different experiences? How do we come together? But luckily, we have somebody who is going to help us with all of that.
Isn't
So
it amazing? We always find somebody to help us with the problem that we have at hand. It's amazing.
luckily for
Sorry.
us. So please welcome to the right room, Stacy Simbrom.
Hey, hi,
hey,
Stacy.
ladies, how
How
are
are you?
you? So glad to be here with you today.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So, as we were saying, you deal in that realm of communication and helping people get on the right page. So, I want to hear more about it, but I'd like to hear a little bit about your story. How did you come to being the communication coach that you are?
Oh, way back when, through a lot of really failed communication, in every facet of my life. But the coaching started about 15 years ago. And first I got into the field of, well, the interesting thing is I was a communication major at New York Tech. And then as we all do, we go through so many varieties of occupations, and the arts. And it was learning how to communicate in so many different ways. And then about 15, 20 years ago, I became involved with the world of addiction and mental health. And then about 7 years ago, I started looking at how those things are so impacted by communication and the communication that we have with our own internal systems, and therefore the communication that we have with the world around us. So I became very, very interested in the words that we choose to use, not only in the engagements with ourselves, but also with the engagements of our work communities and our networking communities and all the communities that we're a part of. So that's the quick version.
No, and that's perfect. And I think what everybody's going to want to know is how does that work in a place you walk in and somebody says, "Yes, we have an issue here. We can't put our finger on it. We heard you're a miracle worker." What is it that you're walking into and what are you assessing?
I'm having conversations. I'm watching the communication of the whole community, but then I'm watching the communication between individual members and seeing whether it boils down to one of two things. Your communication is going to go in one of two ways. Either it's going to go scarcity, which is going to pull you in smaller and make you smaller, or it's going to go expansive. Successful communication always invites expansive. Because when we get small, we're protecting. There's a safety thing there. There's a power struggle there. There's all those things that are indicating somewhere in my nervous system, I am, I'm sensing that there's some kind of energy that's making me feel unsafe. We get small, we protect ourselves. So it's starting to become aware of how many times we do that just in our own dialogue with ourselves, and then how many times are we the recipient of that kind of conversation, and how do we meet it when we're receiving it, and how do we engage the people around us when we're the ones that are putting out our message to other people.
It,
Is there a possibility of, I mean, without divulging company names or individuals, just so that our listeners can put themselves in that situation and see how it relates to them? Is there a specific story of a time, a place that you went into that situation and you turned it around?
There was a agency on Long Island that I ran their EAP program. So people that were getting challenged at work and not getting the outcomes that the workplace wanted, and often sitting and looking at the communication, and again shifting it from that scarcity, I'm on a plan, which means I'm in danger, to how do I take this resource and fly with it? This is not happening to me, this is happening for me. And how can I engage with it? So at the end of this period, I'm not only meeting expectations, I'm exceeding expectations.
Okay,
So, and I was able to do that within this agency for many of the people that I worked with.
any specific examples that you could walk us through?
One person was having difficulty keeping up with the paperwork that they needed, in order to do their job properly. They were really good with the vocalization, but when it came to the paperwork, they had an absolute block. And that was building up and building up and building up to the point this poor person was so absolutely under the pile with paperwork. And it was really looking at, well, what are you making this paperwork mean about you? Like, what's going on here? How are you referring to the paperwork? When your bosses are speaking with you, how are they referring to the paperwork? How are they linking the part of the job that you enjoy doing with the part of the job that you're not so crazy about? And how can we blend these things? There's something called the rule of three. I hold this thing to be in 100% integrity. I hold this thing to be in 100% integrity. When I don't choose one of those things, but when I honor them both in 100% integrity, then there's a reconciling factor that gets created. So how can I hold these two things with complete integrity? And then what's the reconciling fact? What connects them, and how can I tap into that? So much of the work that I did with this person was finding the reconciling property, which was, I know I really hate the paperwork. I know I really love this part. What's the reconciling? Well, I'm taking this part and I'm telling the story so that we can make the services that we offer better and better and better, so that their experience becomes happier and happier and happier, and we're moving them closer to their goals, whether that be in a business to business relationship or a business to consumer relationship.
Okay, then
Does
how did
that
that
answer the
happen?
question?
Well, I think I kind of want to I kind of want to know then what did you say? How were you able to get to that reconciliation? What did you talk to him about? that gave him that epiphany that I could do both?
We were looking a lot of times at the word choices. I don't like this. That was, I don't like that part of my job. And I would say, okay, I'm not going to try to talk you into liking it. What I would like to be curious is when you say, I don't like it, what happens to you? And I saw immediately they slumped and it became labor, labor intensive. And they made a sneer with their face that looked like they were smelling something that was not pleasurable. So, okay, if you don't mind, may I mirror what I'm seeing you give me when you say this word? And they saw that. And I said, now, how much more, how difficult is it moving from that place? You know, your whole system just went, bleh. Of course, that's not pleasurable. What's a word that will honor the fact that that part of your job is not one of your favorites? It's frustrating and it's like walking through mud. And yet, we want to introduce a little bit of curiosity and play into it. And it ended up being the word storytelling. It wasn't paperwork. It was, oh, this is the time that I get to storytell. For them internally, that word, wow, I get to, which means I'm literally giving every aspect. Well, the minute that that word came in, stories can be frustrating and they can evoke anger and they can have all sorts of parts to them, which honored their feelings. But yet it also has resolution. Wow, resolution. Body language goes up, person goes up, storytelling involves curiosity and systems and maybe a little bit of fun. Wow, that was the thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Can I ask you one thing about what you maybe your observations?
sure.
A lot of different people in different business settings and whatever have a lot of different things, baggage, experience,
Yep.
prior incidents, if you
Mhm.
will. Um, how much does that play into it, or maybe even just culturally? I mean, I know when I was teaching, they were telling us, don't expect certain things out of certain children from
Right.
different ethnicities because, in an Asian home, they don't look in the eye. They don't look direct and make direct eye contact. How
Right.
much of that plays into the business out? And do bosses keep that in mind, or do they just like negate it, like it's not important?
I don't find bosses keep that in mind because they have a job description that they need done. And they hired a candidate that they thought was capable of doing it. I think what also falls into play, though, that's not talked about, is that people function, there are three centers of intelligence. You have people that go head first, which is logic, and their go-to emotion is going to be fear. You have people who are body first, which is intuition. Their emotion is going to be anger. You have people who are connection based. Their go-to emotion is going to be shame. So if I can spend time with a person and be able to go, oh, I see where you're coming from. Then from there, it gives me insight into, okay, what other center, what do we need to leverage in order to change the experience that you're having there? And sometimes it's shifting shame into guilt or recognizing that the anger is sadness or doing something with the fear. So all of these things are always in play. For as simple as humans being are, and we actually are incredibly simple, we end up complicating it big time. But what
Mhm.
I find that to be very helpful. And then I can go to the people that they communicate with. And often I go in with the bosses and say, listen, I don't know if I can share this insight about this person. This is really, this is how you will get the best out of them because this is how they function. So instead of trying to get them to function to you, again, the rule of three, you're 100% here, they're 100% here. What can be the reconciling fact?
And you're not trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
You can't.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you can try all you want, but
Mhm.
eventually it's going to pop out.
Right.
It's not going to stay in there.
That's
So it's really educating people on the people that they work with
Mhm.
and giving space for that.
that's
So
very, yeah, I that's very interesting. And I wonder too, how long of a process do they allow you to take? Do they give you free rein when you walk into a business? So somebody comes in to hire you, do they know this is for a week, this is for 2 days,
it
or
really
do you let them
varies.
know?
It really varies. When I'm working with a company, I try to go in and look at their goal and give them like in this amount of time, given these people, I really think we can get to here. That's a very fluid thing because, everybody wants the best outcome possible, but some people are willing to settle for many points in between. I mean, there's so many points on the continuum. So where's your satisfying point and where's your Excel point? And let's see if we can work on something between that and allow me to give you constant updates. So you can always change your mind. But let me keep you informed of the process that's going on. So I really try to be company centered, person centered, because what's gonna speak for a mid-sized company is not going to speak for a small company that has 5 or 6 people in the office. So, doesn't make sense to go in there with a really with a strict invoice of this is what it's going to look like and this is how much time.
It's the whole thing sounds like everybody needs to come together. Like you really
Absolutely.
have to have a cooperating business that understands that they have this need, that if they can get everybody on the right
Yeah.
page, how much better their business will be, communication, customer service, everything comes together that much easily.
But it's also the entrepreneur that's just getting started, that maybe they don't have anybody working with them, but they're talking to tech people and computer people and finance people and they have a sales staff and they're going to networking meetings. I mean, how do you get the most out of that environment so that
Mhm.
you can get to the next step? And so many people think it's just mindset. It's not. If your gut is telling you something that your head is not agreeing with, it's really hard to slog through. So you've got to try to put all these things on the same page. And that, again, always comes from I've got to honor my experience.
And this is a good time then to talk about room service because we are in the right room
Mhm.
and we like to give our listeners room service, which means what could you tell them one actionable step that they could take today, tomorrow, next week, next month, something that they could do to understand the communication language better
Mhm.
or to bring in this philosophy into their own workplace?
Um, Everybody has an elevator speech, whether it's a personal elevator speech or a company elevator speech. I would like for them to check every word in that elevator speech as they say it and see how it hits them. If there's resistance for any reason, that's okay. Take a step, ask yourself, is this the preferred energy to work from to get the result that I'm looking for? And if it's not, find a word that will honor your experience, but again, allow the expansive energy, that feeling of curiosity, exploring, connecting with people. That's always the preferred place to function from.
I'm trying to think if I can actually put that all in my head and remember to do all of that as I'm walking into a networking situation where, again, it's the energy in the room. It's the
Right.
energy from the person that you're standing across from. A lot of different things that I guess.
What's your elevator speech?
Oh, mine?
Yeah. What's your elevator speech?
I help I help business owners. Well, see here we're gonna go. I help business owners calm the chaos of cash flow challenges.
Okay,
I
out of
see, I
curiosity,
stumble over that because it's not natural to say it, those kind of things.
I'm curious. When you say help, what happens with your energy? If someone is helping you, what
I,
happens to your energy?
I can actually feel myself deflate as I say help. You know why? Because all I think of is I'm gonna have a hell of a lot of work to do, and that's not it. So give me a good word to
What,
change that with.
okay, so how does the word support work for you or collaborate?
I like collaborate. Support always scares me because I'm the kind of person that doesn't ask for it and then
Okay,
sometimes gets it and doesn't want it.
okay.
So collaborate is good. I like that.
How does that feel?
Collaborate. It feels better.
Is that true? So when you're collaborating, does it have the essence of helping for you, but
Yeah.
yet it expands?
Yes. Yeah. I
Mm,
never thought of it that way though. So
that's
it's saying
good for
I
them.
collaborate with other business owners to help them grow their business. That sounds a little bit more positive than muddling through. I don't know if I am believable as I'm saying it.
And if
Whatever it
somebody
is.
sometimes receives that they need help, that deflates them.
Right.
But collaborate.
So
Wow. Like there's a flow with the communication between us. Now that's a different story.
and we're done. I mean, that's it. I'm in a nutshell. I'm gonna go now make millions of dollars because I changed one word, but
But that's
it's
and
true
imagine
though.
how many times we do that
Yeah.
all day, that we're doing this with our energy all day, and then we wonder why we get home at night and we're so bloody exhausted.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I find it all fascinating because just the understanding of changing a word and changing your whole outlook and understanding. I mean, that's an amazing skill to have.
That's how energy works. And we're all electrical. So
Mm.
when you're in a room, when you are in a chaotic room, you know what that feels like. But when you're in the buzz of the theater, you know what that feels like. When you're home and the fireplace is on, you know what that feels like. Everything responds to it. So
Which,
we're just asking people to be conscious.
yeah, and this is a great segue into what does it mean to you to be in the right room? What does that feel like to you?
I left the right room this morning. So this is real easy for me. I am a connection-based person of what I do and everything else. So the room that I was in, it was a networking room, but they put connection. uh, Business comes through connection. And the people I was with, we were all connecting as human beings first, and the business that was being passed was incredible. Rather than coming in and selling occupation or this and so that's what the room means to me, that there is that collaborative spirit and it's expansive. I'm not just going in to pass business. I'm going in to pass energy and just I want to know everything. So thank you for asking that. That was great. It really got me back into that space,
Cool.
which
See?
feels really good.
Look at that. See?
Wonderful.
Just a few
Love
words.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Well, there's something that's really interesting. There's something memory holds in two ways. There's recall memory, which is conscious memory, and it's everything that we call up. It's the conscious. But then there's implicit memory, which is everything that we don't remember, but we've experienced. And it's usually what the body remembers, not what the mind remembers. So when you're able to trigger that implicit memory, and that's the one we function from 2/3 of the time, that's the one. So the more I can call up that implicit memory, that it keeps me in the zone.
That's amazing. Cool. I got to try to remember that.
Call me anytime, Jane. Okay.
Okay. There you go. Well, listen, I'm gonna just change up my whole elevator pitch for tomorrow, so I'll be good.
Good.
But
Excellent.
all right, well, Stacy, thank you so much for being in the right room with
Well,
us.
thank you so much.
We want to tell all of our listeners if this episode resonated with you, or if you think that you have somebody in mind that could use this type of support, reconnecting their mind, their body, their heart, or wants to learn more about the Reflection Project, Stacy, let me ask you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Email would be the best place to connect, and that would be reflection.project.ccfw, creative collaboration for wellness at gmail.com.
Cool. All
Well, we'll
right.
have that in the notes too. But
Thank
it's
you very
always,
much, ladies.
no, we always like to have people say it as well.
Thank you.
So there's no confusion. Yeah. And we want to thank you. We want all our listeners to know too that we have expanded. So we are not only just on YouTube, but we're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple.
Podcasts.
Yes,
And
and
there's at least a dozen more
oh,
because we're
Lisa doesn't
using
want.
positive. See, we're using positive, expansive words like Spotify. You
Yes,
know, we're trying. But anyway,
yeah.
listen, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Keep us going. And Stacy, we're probably going to ask you to come back on at a certain point because we want to hear more about this. And I'll get back to you and let you know if it worked for me tomorrow.
I have no doubt it's going to work.
I hope so. See, oh no, I know so. I have to change the way I speak.
Love it.
Exactly.
Love it.
Well, thank you, and
Thank
we hope to see you the next time in the right room.